I have done a lot of PC builds over the years on the channel. However, this is my first time doing it competitively, as I have entered a budget PC build-off with Andy's Tech, where we have to build the best budget gaming rig possible for just a mere £150. I think this video will also be a very good concept to show you gamers which are on a very tight budget that you can in fact build a very decent gaming rig for just £150. My budget contender landed me with this HP Z420 workstation, and as soon as I saw it had quad channel memory, I snatched it up immediately. I thought this would have been the perfect base for my gaming PC. It has an Intel Core Xeon with 6 cores and 12 threads, and 32GB of quad channel DDR3 memory running at 1600 MHz. Back in 2014, this would have been a very beefy workstation, and the business that bought this would have spent thousands on it. Other specs include a very questionable 600 watt power supply, which only has a single 6-pin PCIe power connector, but more on that in a bit. And it also had this Kepler based Quadro in there, but we'll be removing that in today's video. But I will be making more content on that. Because it has no drive, and this is very common with ex-business machines like this, I had to put in a 500GB SATA SSD. This set me back around 21 quid, and you could probably get one for cheaper now because they don't really go for that much, but this is a slightly older one which I've held onto for quite a while, so that's why it's cost me a bit more money. The graphics card in here is a Nvidia Quadro, which I believe is a 3GB Kepler based card, but that's not going to be any good for the games that we're playing today. So out that goes, and in goes an AMD RX 580 4GB. And in fact, it's the one that I repaired, and I've even overclocked the memory on it today to 2000 MHz. This should help me out quite a bit in gaming today. This set me back £34. With the chassis costing £93, this brings it up to a total of £148. With Windows being activated as well, I didn't have to spend any money there, so I'm only just £2 under budget, which saves me a bit of money to buy a cup of tea from Greggs or something like that. You might be looking at this PC and you might be thinking, why on earth are the two power supplies powering this thing? And that's a very good question, and I alluded to it earlier. The built-in power supply in this thing only has a single 6-pin PCIe power cable, which is no good for our RX 580 because that has an 8-pin connector. And because HP, in their infinite wisdom, decided to put proprietary connectors everywhere all over this motherboard, I had no choice but to use two power supplies for this thing. So that's one power supply powering the whole of the system, so the CPU, the I/O, the motherboard, all that sort of stuff. And the second power supply is powering just the graphics card. And the way I got this done was a little £6 adapter from Amazon called Add2PSU. And essentially what it does is it trips the second power supply as soon as you turn on the power to the first one, letting you power your graphics card independently of the main power supply. I will probably make a dedicated video on this, so make sure you stay subscribed for that. Before I get into the benchmarks, this is how we are scoring our testing for today. In each test, the person with the highest average will get 1 point, and the same goes for the highest 1% low frame rate as well. Add these all up and the person with the highest score overall is the winner. Pretty simple, eh? With that being said, let's get into the benchmarks. So the first game tested today is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and on the basic preset, performance was actually not too bad. Getting 71 FPS on average with a 1% low of 45. For a £140, this is certainly playable, and it probably looks better than the Xbox One version, and it performs a bit better as well, getting 71 FPS on average in the benchmark, which is, it's kind of a worst case scenario because there's a lot going on in the benchmark. So yeah, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is certainly playable on this machine. Rainbow Six Siege is up next, and testing it with the high preset netted 156 FPS on average with 96 FPS for the 1% low. This performance is great, you're getting over 144 FPS here, more than enough for a game like this, and the 1% low at 96 is not too bad either. It could probably be a bit higher, but other than that I can't really think of any problems here with Rainbow Six Siege. So if you want a budget system to play this game, this 150 quid system is not too bad at all. F122 is up next. We decided to test this game instead of F123, mainly because Andy hasn't bought that yet, which is totally fine. F122 does kind of perform the same as 23 anyway. Regardless, on the medium preset, this system scored 105 FPS on average with a 1% low of 38. I'm not too sure what was going on with the 1% lows right there. They were kind of like stuttering in the same place every run, so I don't know what that was about. Other than that, the performance was kind of alright. 105 FPS on average is not too bad at all, and it felt like it would have been smooth enough to play games on it anyway, so I'm not too concerned by the 1% low there. Next up is Cyberpunk 2077, and the fact that this game runs with a reasonable frame rate is pretty surprising to me. Setting it to the low preset with FSR 2.1 enabled on quality, this nets 48 FPS on average with a 1% low of 34 in the in-game benchmark. Not too bad. I was kind of expecting worse here, and older AMD graphics cards, or just older graphics cards in general, don't really like Cyberpunk, but 48 FPS for the average, not too bad in this title. Last game, or better off test for that matter, is Unigine Heaven. This is pretty new to the channel. I don't really use Unigine Heaven for testing, but here it is in the video today. Setting it to the high preset with 8 times anti-aliasing, this averaged 68 FPS on average with a 1% low of 28. I'm not sure what was going on with the 1% lows, but it was stuttering quite a bit in Unigine Heaven. I feel like this is down to the CPU, or maybe the ECC memory in this machine, but you're not really going to be playing Unigine Heaven. It's a synthetic benchmark. Performance, I don't really have anything to relate it to, so I'm just going to have to see what Andy come up with in this title. So yeah, that's all the benchmarks done for today. Yeah, not bad that. With all the benchmarking being done, it's time to see what Andy got with his PC, and I won't fully know until he drops his video, which will be coming out the same day as this, which is Friday at some day in August, I believe the 25th. However, I will be uploading a YouTube short shortly after this, maybe on the Saturday or the Sunday, and as soon as I upload that, I will pin it in the comments down below. So, would I recommend you do the same as what I've done today with your gaming PC if you're looking to get into PC gaming with just £150? And I would have to say, maybe yes. You'll have to be very cautious and vigilant depending on what power supply you have. I hear some HP Z420s have come with dual 6-pin PCIe power cables, and some have come with the one that I've got today, which is just the single 6-pin power cable. Because of this, I'd recommend you buy your graphics card after you actually buy the main tower, because there are some versions of the GTX 1060 which only have a single 6-pin PCIe power connector, and I actually do have one of them on test right now, so make sure you stay watching out for that. That video will be out in the next couple of weeks. Other than that, I believe there are some GTX 1660 Supers which do have a 6-pin PCIe power connector as well, and that is a much more powerful graphics card, around the same levels as a GTX 1070, so that's not a bad GPU there either. Also, some lower end office units like Dell Optiplexes also have horrendously bad power supplies, them like 350 watts in some of them. You can't really power much with this. You could probably get away with like a 1650 non-super that doesn't require any external power. And failing that, you'll probably need to get a much worse GPU, something like a GTX 1630, which is, it's not a great GPU, put it that way. Also, you will have to buy a storage drive yourself, most likely. Look at something like a 1TB SATA SSD. They go for incredibly cheap now. You can get one for around 30 odd quid, which is an incredible deal, and that's a lot of storage. And SATA SSDs, they're still pretty fast compared to hard drives. They're not quite NVMe level, but it's still a very good budget option for you. Just don't boot from a hard drive. Also, another benefit of old office machines like these is Windows 10 Pro usually comes pre-activated on the board, so you wouldn't have to pay for Windows either, which is always a pro, especially when you're trying to get a PC on a budget like this. So I believe for £150 you could truly make a very good budget gaming PC. Yes, they don't really have an upgrade path because there's not much you can really do to an X79 board. Maybe put in an i7, but at that point, is it really worth it over this Xeon? I don't think so. Also, the 32GB of quad channel memory will actually help out a lot with performance because it effectively doubles your memory bandwidth over dual channel, which is always great, especially on DDR3. So if you're looking to play games like Minecraft, Rainbow Six Siege, Fortnite, this PC is totally fine for games like that. Even if you want to play slightly newer games like Cyberpunk, that don't perform exactly great, but it was still playable on a machine like this, and you were getting decent frame rates when you enabled FSR, so that is something to look at there. Just make sure you remain vigilant with the power supplies because they are very questionable in units like these with their power configuration, so look out for that. With that being said, I'm going to leave this video here. If you enjoyed this one, leave it a like, stay subscribed for more tech content, and I'll catch you in the next one.